It's a great lyric, that, like ice cream on a let it go like ice cream on a summer's day. And it's very hot out right now. And you just brought me back to Philadelphia when I was just a little boy, maybe 6 or 7. And I remember sitting on the steps of the art museum in downtown Philadelphia, because my grandparents, both sets of of grandparents, lived within walking distance of the art museum. Right where Rocky ran up those steps, that's where I grew up. And I remember sitting there. There's a picture of me. I don't have it anymore, but I remember this picture of me, these ginormous steps of the art museum, and me just sitting there licking an ice cream cone. And it just reminded me that there is a way to engage your mind where you can let go of what needs to be let go of. Sometimes it's a memory. Sometimes it's taking you back somewhere where you were, to a simpler time, to a more naive time. And sometimes it's going somewhere you've never been in your mind. But it is using your mind. Let it go. And I love that your song says, I am here to be God expressing. I'm not here to play small. I'm here to play big. Big, big, big. That's what I'm here to do. So the title of my talk today, which is really a couple of snippets of talks as the other ministers in this room get to share their brilliance. The title of my talk today was Release the Brilliance. So I, as a teacher, I get to release the brilliance today, I know, as 2 of my most amazing students. But the other thing is, are you willing to release your own brilliance? Am I willing to release my brilliance? Am I willing to release that little boy who sat on a step of the art museum eating an ice cream, feeling that the world was completely mine to rule, that everything was possible for me? Because I'm 65 now. I have a lot of information that I use when I'm understanding my worth and my brilliance and my passion. But does any of that matter? No. Because there is a brilliance inside of me that has yet to be tapped. You think you see me? You think you know me? No. I haven't even begun to tap into the brilliance I am. And I know that same thing for this man who's about to get up here and speak. Because I watched him over these last 3 years. I have watched Kelly Bershinsky turn into Reverend Kelly Bershinsky. And when I tell you that this man has made an enormous leap in consciousness over the last 3 years, I'm probably understating it. So please welcome Reverend Kelly Bershinsky.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. James. And good morning, everybody. It's always such a pleasure to be here and to get to participate. And I'm really glad to be here today to be a part of the conversation for this month about release. And this word it's one we hear frequently at Global Truth Center. We hear the word release in probably every prayer or spiritual mind treatment that is offered here. We hear that at the end, that I release my word. And so what is that about, really? What is the significance of that? And for me, it really is about, we talked a little bit about it when Dr. James and I were up here, about, I know there's something I want to move past, and I want to usher something else in to replace it. I usher that in via the power of my word. And I think that's a wonderful notion, and it's a powerful process. And so my talk title today is The Ride of Your Life. And this is maybe 15 years ago or so. I was still starring in West Side Story on Broadway. Oh, no. I don't even know where that came from, really. I don't even know whose story that is. Pardon me. I was still living in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'd been there many years, and I was invited by a group of friends to participate in a weekend getaway. This particular group of friends love to ride all of the big thrill rides. And they invited me on a road trip. Day 1 would be spent at Knott's Berry Farm, and day 2 at Magic Mountain. And so I was game for this. I signed up for it, and soon we were on our merry way for this weekend road trip. And my friends loved to be on the rides with me. They loved riding these big thrill rides, particularly with me, because of my animation and what the rides bring out in me. And that mostly is screaming and hollering and even less than that, really more cackling and laughing at the top of my lungs uncontrollably. That's just how they affect me. And so I think I was kind of a plant to bring on this trip because it seemed to affect everybody around me. And everybody engaged a little more on the rides. And at the end of a couple days, I think we had done 37 thrill rides, something like that. I was worn out, frankly, kind of weak in the knees and trembling at the end of it. But it became apparent at some point that as free as I was with laughter and animation and carrying on, that there was a level of freedom I saw all around me that I was not able to participate in. And that was, for instance, we would be on a roller coaster and coming down a major hill or going through a loop or something, and I would see my friends and people around me, little kids even, 6 or 7 or 8 years old, just turn loose with their hands. And in this, just what looked to me like freedom. Meanwhile, I was clutching to anything that resembled a handle on whatever particular ride I happened to be on. Clutching, grasping, clenching either a lap bar or a handle by my side or whatever it happened to be. And yet, I really wanted to participate in this greater level of freedom that I saw happening. I really wanted that, and yet couldn't quite do it, couldn't quite come to that comfort level. And so, in looking at this idea, what is going on within me that prevents me from stepping into this greater freedom? What I realized is that when I really, truly do want to let go of something and can't, I have to look inward. Because what's going on out here is really just an indication of what is going on in here. And that's where I had to look to really eventually come to terms with how this affected me. And so while I spent the weekend clutching the lap bar on the roller coasters, I eventually came to understand a lot from this little road trip with my friends. And one of the things I realized is that we human beings are interesting creatures, if nothing else. We will sometimes hold on to something, even when we know it is standing in our way. We will hold on to something, sometimes to the point of exhaustion. And I experienced that on this weekend. I experienced exhaustion at the end of this weekend. My hands were cramped, in fact. And I was certainly exhausted from that way of holding on to something. But I was exhausted in another way, from a mental and emotional standpoint. And I was exhausted from that because I was trying to do two things that conflicted and trying to do them at the same time. I was trying to immerse myself fully in the enjoyment of the present moment. And I was simultaneously attempting to protect myself from that present moment. That is an exhausting way to live. And I come to understand something else in that trip. I came to learn that when I clutch something in that way, when I squeeze the life out of something for all it is worth, when I am holding on for dear life, whatever I'm holding on to, I am not protected from. I am tied to it. And when I do that, it is never more than arm's length away. The only way to get it further away is to let it go. And so I had to look at what was going on in my mind. What is this need for safety, this need for protection? What is that about? And on that inward journey, I realized that I had to release something in my mind. I had to release a new image, a new idea, a new understanding about myself, about who and what I am. The truth about who I am. And the truth of that is that I am the very presence of God. That is who I am. That is who each of you are. But when I understood that, not when I said it, not when I read it off a page or something, but when I felt that on an interior level, then this became possible for me. So, my question for each of you here, for myself, for everybody online, for all of us, my question is probably obvious. And I'm no longer talking about a lap bar on a roller coaster or something like that. But what are those old thoughts and beliefs and stories that you tell yourself about how you have to provide for your own protection? What I know is the truth of us suggests just because of who we are, our safety and security and protection are already provided for. We are safe in every moment. But I would invite you, if you will join me in that thing of looking inside, look at your own life as I will continue to look at mine. Look in and see what is it that you absolutely know is standing between you and a fuller, richer experience of this thing called life. What do you know you need to let go of? And look at that. Look at that feeling inside about who and what you are. And what I know is that if you will do that and come to that same conclusion about how powerful you are, you can get on that cart. You can get on that roller coaster. It may still be scary. There will be highs and lows and big curves maybe and loops and all that kind of stuff. But you'll know for sure that that track is there to support you in every moment, that you are cared for. And if you do that, if you come to that resolution, you'll be able to let go of that desperate feeling of holding on by a thread. And as my talk title suggests, you will begin the ride of your life. Happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That was great, Kelly. That was just great. As we all know, I hate rides. So my hands were sweating as you were first talking about that. I just never liked, I don't know why, I just never liked getting on those. I get on them because I submit to peer pressure at times, or because originally the kids had to go, but I literally, they have to literally take my hands off of it when it's over to get me out. It's just, but metaphorically speaking, there's also a lot of other things that just came up for me, so thank you. That was really, really great. So, because we don't want just one or two talks today, we're going to have a third. I mean, I didn't really give a talk, but morning's early. Yeah. So, when we talk about release and we talk about letting go, this young lady, I've known for I don't know how many years now. I guess 10 years maybe she's been at the center. 10 longer. 12 years she was at the center. And I remember when she first came to the center, she was just this wild. I think the first time I saw you, your hair was like this. It was like she was just this wild, gorgeous woman. And she was friends of two friends of mine who are also wild and gorgeous. So it was like figures. And she came in and she just started to soak up the philosophy. And, then we got to meet her children. And she just brought so much, what's the word I want to use? She brought fierceness to this teaching for me. Because there is an audacity to this woman. There is a stubbornness to this woman. There is a relentlessness to this woman. But when you see it all and when you feel it all, and sometimes when it comes at you when you're her teacher, and it's literally coming this way, you also recognize that it is the passion of God that is just pouring through this woman. And I've also watched her make an enormous shift in these last 4 years, 2 years of practitioner, 2 years of ministerial. So let's see what she's going to do today. So welcome, Reverend Liza Marquez.
Thank you, Dr. James. That was such a great introduction. But I know, actually, that what you see in others, you actually see in yourself. So, and I do want to say this. I love that you reference your age. Like, I think, and Reverend Kelly, thank you for bringing up the musicals, but I think those musicals have now been replaced by a weekly what your age is. So, complete non sequitur, has nothing to do with my talk, but I did appreciate that today. When August rolled around and I realized, or you mentioned that release was going to be our theme, I thought, oh my God, this couldn't be more perfect right now. I mean, how many of us just need to release and let go? Just the word itself has that sort of calming connotation, doesn't it? Like, just there's so much going on and you can get so caught up. And the second that you say release, you're like, it's letting go. It's shedding, it's allowing, it's kind of like that collective just exhale, right? Like, doesn't it feel like an exhale? It does. As a matter of fact, why don't we do this right now? And everyone online, unless you're driving or cooking and you don't want to burn your pancakes, why don't you come to a nice, comfortable position? Just really be in the moment. If it's available to you, just be in this moment. And I invite you to savor the next breath that you take. So as you inhale deeply, and now savor the exhale as you will, audibly or just silently. Doesn't that feel great? Doesn't it feel nice to just exhale? What I realized for me in that exhale, in that release, is that it brings me to what Eckhart Tolle calls the observer. To witness what is happening all around you, regardless of what it is, regardless of it's something wonderful or something not so wonderful, something epic or something pandemic. Whatever it may be, you witness it without judgment. So you're no longer the judger or the critic or the decider. I know Kevin Bailey will get that one. But you're actually just the observer and the witness of what's happening all around. And you detach yourself from any kind of meaning. Eckhart Tolle says this: becoming aware of the now also means realizing that you are the now, or noticing the observer that witnesses life's events with detachment and without being possessed by those events. So, again, for me, release is exactly that. So when this month the theme came up for release, it was about just letting go and detaching from any meaning of everything that's happening right now in my life. Everyone's got so many things going on in spite of what's happening in the world. and because of the world. There's so many other things that come up for us in our lives, and being able to take that moment of release and to detach. Because for me, release has always meant just that ability to let go, to sort of take inventory on the things that no longer serve me, whether they be situations, whether they be people, whether they be circumstances. Really take inventory of those things and just release them. But when I'm detached from that, I'm not releasing from a place of hate. I'm not releasing from a place of anger. I'm actually releasing from a place of love, and understanding that in those detachments, in those releasings, that there is a highest and best for all of us, for every situation, for every circumstance. And having that ability to detach also brings you to what Deepak Chopra calls pure potentiality. And in that pure potentiality, to really be that unbound, unmanifest, limitless source. Deepak Chopra calls it the law of pure potentiality, which is also the law of unity. And the law of unity and the law of pure potentiality being the same, because there really is just one source. There's one infinite source, one mind. And what he says is, there is no separation between you and the field of pure potentiality, of consciousness itself. Because underlying the infinite diversity of life is the unity of one all-pervasive spirit. So if there is this unity of one all-pervasive spirit, it is exactly who we are. And when we are able to detach from the meaning, detach from the circumstance, and let go of anything that is not for our highest and best, not supporting us in becoming one, really realizing, remembering who we are, then that's the time to release. That's the time to let go. That's the time to allow. And to be in this pure potential space of who you are. I mean, if you stop for 1 minute and think about the fact that this pure potentiality, this consciousness has thought me into existence. Imagine the power that we possess. I think so many times we are so in our head and not enough in our mind. And the difference is, being in your head is all the things you do, the doing. And being in mind is creating. I think last week, Dr. James, when you and Reverend Andrew were up here, we were talking about that. And the great question that you gave her is, what is yours? What do you want now? What is yours to create? And that's the difference in being in your head and being in mind. And when I say mind, I don't say minds. I say mind. This one unifying mind that is everything. And I realize that in this oneness, and when I'm detached and I am in this one, I have the ability to create. And so release means to me, it's a 3-part thing. It's not just about shedding, about letting go. Like Reverend Kelly said earlier, it's not just about releasing all those things that no longer serve you, but stepping into that release of who you want to be, who you want to show up into as in the world. Who am I in the world? Not who is the world as me. I want to know that I'm informing the world because I'm coming from that detached space of unity, of love, of truth, of being deeper into who I am. And in that allowing, I realize, again, release is not just about shedding and letting go. It's also about allowing and then about releasing. So it's a 3-part fold for me when I think now about release. And it was actually that conversation that you had with Reverend Andrea, Dr. James, that made me realize that release is not just letting go. It's understanding, who are you allowing to be out there and letting go. So the title of my talk is Release to Unleash. So when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about releasing that small identity that we have, releasing that thing that we identify that is more of the ego, as Deepak Chopra again calls it, the object referral. So when you identify with something that is not truly who you are in that infinite potential, in that source, in that consciousness, who you are, that is who you are. And when you identify with something smaller and you can release that identity and you allow the identity of who you truly are, that greatness, that consciousness, that ever-creating creator, wow, that is how unstoppable It reminds me of a really amazing quote. I don't really need to read it, but I will. A quote that Rumi says, "Stop acting small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion." And that is who we are. We are in ecstatic motion constantly. So why stagnate our constant universal motion by allowing the out there to tell us who we truly are in here? So my invitation to you is to release that identity that limits you so that you can unleash that unbound potential that you truly are. Namaste.
And Thor, if you leave that up for a minute, that picture, I love this picture. When Liza and I talked about this picture, when she got the picture for herself, she talked about how, well, wait, if it's released to unleash, he hasn't let go of the balloons. So what has he really done? And I thought about that. First I thought, well, what happens when we don't let go, when we're not willing to release? Well, we can be actually taken places we perhaps don't want to go. Of course, in this moment, if he does release to unleash, I fear he might fall down. So I'm looking at this thing, I'm going, okay, there's so many ways to make this picture work. But what I finally came to was that it's actually both. Because, now follow me here. He's got these balloons, right? And now, first of all, somebody had to hand him the balloons and that was weighted down. And somehow the balloons took him up. And now he's on this amazing journey. Now, what did he release? Well, he released the earth. He released his weight. He released whatever was holding him down. And now he's kind of flying. And there's a moment in many of our journeys and many of our excursions and many of our projects and the desires we have, where it seems as though if we let go, we are going to fall. And we hold on to things sometimes that are crutches, that don't necessarily serve us. And so the question has to be in my mind, if I'm this man right here, if I let go, can I fly? Can I let go of even the thing that I think is holding me up? And will I still fly or will I fall? And that's what because you made me now think about it when I saw it. And that's what I thought about. I went, so many times I am flying high and I'm doing great and I'm succeeding at so much. But I need to let go of even that which I've succeeded at in order to really learn that I can fly. Detach, exactly what you just said. If I'm willing to detach, even from the good, not just from those things that no longer serve me, but even from the things that are serving me. Maybe I'm being served hamburger, and instead I could be being served filet mignon. Or I could go vegan and be served something even more delicious that takes a lot more time to figure out. So that was great, Reverend Liza. Thank you.